Hi, my name is Ruby. I'm an alcoholic. I just want to start off by saying I'm extremely nervous. I was like sweating on the way over here. I haven't spoken in like over a year, and it's taken me some time to like acquire some honest time. So, I'm just gonna start off by talking about what it used to be like. What it used to be like growing up as a kid for me. I grew up in a military family, so we moved around a lot. I didn't really have roots somewhere. Home wasn't really a place. It was more like a feeling. And I couldn't really put my finger on that feeling most of the time. Because the home life was not, so great. I had a lot of things that you could qualify a family as dysfunctional. There was a lot of, heartbreak and a lot of toxicity and just a lot of trauma that was unprocessed on both ends of my family, as well as the kids as well in the family. Like, I have two older brothers. One is my half brother and one is my full biological brother. And there's just a lot of unprocessed trauma, which leads to toxicity. It breeds toxicity. So you can just imagine how like home life was growing up. And even in school, when I went to school, and when I was in elementary school, like in middle school, I was like a scholar student. I was in gifted programs. I didn't really have to try. I didn't really apply myself much. It kind of just happened, and I was like all right with it. I experienced at a very young age a lot of trauma, and I'm not going to go into the details just because I used to tell my story in a very sad way and really used to milk the misery out of it, but I'm just not that person anymore. So what ended up conspiring out of all of that trauma, I ended up being the youngest and only girl out of the three children to being taken care of my mom. My mom ended up getting really sick. My mom went to war in Iraq after 9/11. So as a result of that, she had multiple sclerosis and TBI, PTSD, narcolepsy. The list just goes on. So she got very, very sick. When I turned like 9 years old, and I was the only one to take care of her. My brothers didn't want to step up to the plate, so I would literally step up on a step stool and cook eggs because that was just about the only thing I knew how to make, and make sure that my brothers ate and make sure that my mom ate and made sure she took her medicine. And even though at times she didn't like me because I was making her take her medicine and keeping track of her therapy times and stuff like that, I still did it, and I don't know why I decided to take that responsibility. I just felt like I needed to. And that went on for the rest of my youth. We ended up in Miami. That was where most of my life I grew up. I ended up growing up there, and life was, to me it was normal. To others it was absurd, and it was strange. It was odd. And a lot of people felt bad for me. But I never saw my life that way. I kind of was like, I saw it as like a noble thing, like that I was taking care of my mom. Oh, look at me. Like I'm the daughter that stayed, and like I'm in ROTC and I do all of these military things or whatever. I was in youth military groups, and I was like a model student, and I did the morning announcements, for crying out loud. I was that kid. And, to me, I had it all together on the outside. I had it all put together in a nice little puzzle, and the picture looked really, really pretty. But no one really knew what was going on inside. This really started in middle school when my parents divorced. That just feeling of like, where do I belong? Like, what is my purpose in life? How does this even make sense? Like trying to like really understand like what my place was. And I feel like I struggled with that at a very, very young age. And it carried on with me all the way up into high school. And, I just kind of masked it with, I'm just going to go to the Navy and then be done with it. I think that, serving my country, would be a respectable, honorable thing, following in the footsteps of my parents, I think it was a pretty done deal. Check off the list. I know my purpose in life. But then, drugs and alcohol came into the picture. I mean, I honestly, at my first drunk, I was like 7 years old. But like, my family's Hispanic. My mom's Puerto Rican, my dad's Cuban. Like, if you didn't drink at a young age, like, it was just weird. So like, my first drunk was not like my moment that I was like, oh my God, this is it. My first moment was I was 14 and I decided to smoke marijuana. That was the first time that I understood what it was like to not be able to think like consecutive thoughts. Everything was spaced out. I couldn't really form a thought, and that was where I wanted to be, because my mind was where my prison was. My mind is what made me so depressed and made me literally like cripple in just anxiety and fear. And from at 19 years old, I had already been beaten, raped, shot at, robbed, like so many things have happened to me by the age of 19. And that was honestly like my breaking point. I was in a relationship for like 4 years that I was just constantly being beaten. And at that point, I had, gotten into the stronger substances in my story. And, I experienced at that point consecutive using, and I experienced my body being dependent on a substance. I had never experienced that before. And that's when, I don't know why, but I ended up telling my dad and asking for help, and he helped me. I ended up getting into a rehab. I was 19 years old, and all they told me was, go to PHP. And I was like, all right, cool. Because I was trying to run away from Miami. I was trying to run away from everything. So I was just like, cool, I'll go to the next one. And I went to a 10-month-long IOP, which landed me in Jupiter Farms, and that's how I found this place. And, I was so willing to leave everything behind because there was nothing good for me. I was so badly beaten and so badly mangled. I was willing to do absolutely anything. And I did. I moved up here. I relocated my entire life. It was amazing. I met a bunch of great people at the time. We called it like the Tiki Hut people, because like that's when COVID happened and this place was shut down, so we'd meet in the parking lot. And I was on fire. I went through my steps. Like, I had a spiritual experience. I had a moment that I understood the presence of a being that I had no understanding of. It said a God of your own understanding. Honestly, if you understand it, it's a little too small. So to me, in that moment, I really, I felt something. And I never felt that before. And in that moment, I felt okay. And I'd never felt okay before. I was always unsafe. Even in my childhood home, I did not feel safety, and I did not feel the love and safety of what your childhood home is supposed to feel like. I didn't have that. And in that moment, I felt complete. But that moment was fleeting. I did not maintain my spiritual condition. I continued to live on yesterday's sobriety. That got me to maybe a year and a half at best. And I got the car, I got the apartment, I got the great relationship, and down went my recovery. And that started the cycle of relapse. And the thing is that what I didn't understand when I was in it was that I can't stay stopped. I'm not one of those people that can just pick up and drop it and then get back into AA and I'm okay. I'm not one of those people. I need something to stop me because I can't stay stopped. I picked up and I put it down, and some time went by and I was coming into these rooms and I was doing the song and dance with the mask, and I'm doing great. I'm amazing. Laughing, front row, speaking, sharing, talking about, what I thought the book meant. And I was out again within days. And that was the vicious cycle for a while, and it was absolute misery. I kept this facade up. Why? Because that's the only thing I know how to do. I've had a mask my entire life. It's hard to break that. And especially to even know that you're doing it. Because sometimes it's just completely subconscious. And you have no idea. And you don't even mean to. It just happens. And today I'm not that person. Today I try and break into that facade every single day. So, when I got into AA, at first it was like this social thing, and like that I finally had friends that like actually cared about me, and actually had people that loved me and would like genuinely show up for me. And I never had that before. So at first it was just that, and like now like through this experience of like constantly like literally fighting for my life, I've understood that this is not a social gathering. Like, this is not, I mean, although you can find friends in here, this is not what that is for. I'm here to save my life. I'm here to find God and to create a relationship with him. To me, I call him God because it's just easier to talk about, because if I'd start going on into that's going to be a whole rant. But like, the 12 steps of having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, and to carry this message, service. That's what the 12 steps says. It says you're having a spiritual awakening, a spiritual experience. You're having a relationship with a higher power. That's what this whole thing is about. And if you think that it's not, then you're going to have a hard time here. Because I did not understand that. And it took a lot of times falling and getting back up, and falling and getting back up, and falling again. And then everyone picking me back up. Because sometimes I couldn't even get up on my own. This last time around, I literally died. And I had never OD'd before in my entire life. I was always that person like, oh, well, I'm not an IV user, so like my chances of ODing are a lot less, Like, I was that person that I was like, well, I wasn't that bad. Yeah, my yet came true. And I almost lost my life. Now, as a result of that, every time an ambulance comes by, I literally have a panic attack. But that is one of the consequences of my using. I almost left my entire family behind. And for what? For a cap? For a bag? It's not worth it. It's really not. And I see like most of you like raised your hand, and I think that's amazing, because for a while I didn't raise my hand at all. I was talking about how I had like 6 months. I didn't have 6 months. I picked up a 6-month chip on one of my closest friends' year medallion because I needed to be in the spotlight. Why? I have no idea. I still feel so terrible about that, but those are things that I have to work through with my higher power, with my sponsor. We all have things that we have, like that shame, that I call it this like cloak of shame that I wear, because it feels like I can't take it off. Like, I constantly walk around with it. And like this time around, like, what I've really, really learned about this time, and what is different this time, is that like I'm actually spending a moment with God every day. I'm pausing and being silent and sitting still. And I'm praying and I'm talking to God for maybe 20, 30 minutes in the morning before I get out of bed. And like, I'm not saying that this time and I'm lying about it. Like, I'm actually serious this time. I'm actually doing that. It's like actually part of my routine. And just by that alone, like my nightly routine probably could use some work. But my morning routine is so solid to the point, but just that throughout the day, I get up in the day and I think about other people. I went to work today and I was thinking about other people and how they can benefit from my presence. What I can do to serve other people. And like, I have been so selfless that like when situations hit me, like right now I'm currently sitting in a moment of like financial insecurity. Like when those things hit me and I have like $30 in my bank account, like I know God's got me. Why? I don't know, but I know He does. Do I understand it? Not at all. But I don't need to understand it because I know that it's happened before in my life. It's proven that it works every single time. And obviously, my way doesn't fucking work at all. So, my doing something different this time is just letting go. Actually praying, actually sitting with myself and sitting with God and talking about how I can be a better person today. And that's kind of all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Think of a topic.